Hello there and welcome Virtual Space Hero community. A wonderful good morning, good afternoon or good evening wherever you are connecting from. So this week's topic has caused already a few messages beforehand into my LinkedIn mailbox. Why? Because we're going to talk about one-on-one meetings. And we do know after the past Virtual Space Hero LinkedIn Lives that hybrid organizations or virtual work will stay with us from now onwards. But when we think about virtual organizations or working more virtually in general, we also know that one-on-one meetings are essential. So one-on-one meetings in general are pretty important. But think a little bit, when did you have your last one-on-one meeting that was not the regular performance appraisal that maybe in your organization is being undertaken once a year? So when did you have your last one-on-one meeting? Use the chat function, use the comment function throughout the LinkedIn Live. Ask us your question and also let us know your thoughts on the topic. Today, I'm discussing this important topic with a best-selling author that lately published his book with Harvard Business Review about how to become indispensable at work. And I'm really happy to welcome on the Virtual Space Hero stage, Bruce Tulgan from Rainmaker Thinking. Hi, Bruce.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Hello, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Thank you so much for including me.
Thanks so much, Bruce, for making time in your schedule. I know that you're also very busy, and we had it needed some days to find a slot where we fit into your schedule. But I'm happy that you made the effort. Thank you so much. Let me introduce you a little bit, Bruce Tulgan. I came across an amazing post from you about virtual meetings, and then another one followed at about one-on-one meetings. So let us know a little bit about your background, about Rainmaker Thinking. What is your company about, and how did you get into the topic or the area of virtual meetings and one-on-ones and leadership in general?
Yeah, so for 27 years, we've been doing research on the front lines of the workplace. Back in the early 90s, I was an unhappy young lawyer at number 2 Wall Street, and I started doing research on the front lines of the workplace. My first book came out in the mid-90s. Some people remember it. It was called Managing Generation X. For a while, there were more news stories about that book than the number of books that had been sold. But so, ever since then, we've been doing research on the front lines of the workplace. We do in-depth interviews and surveys and focus groups and organizational assessments. And more than 500,000 people have participated in our research from more than 400 organizations over the last 27 years. So everything we do is based on that ongoing research, and that goes into, basically when the research bubbles up an issue, I write a book, and the books turn into training programs and consulting platforms, and we've worked with organizations ranging from the United States Army to Walmart and everyone in between. So it beats working. It certainly beats being a lawyer.
That's really fantastic. And really for everyone out there, don't miss to check out Bruce's webpage, rainmakerthinking.com. It's an amazing webpage with a lot of resources. And among them, for example, the blog that Bruce is writing, where you can find certainly some of the aspects that are also being dealt with in his book publications. Nonetheless, check out his book section and PDF section. Amazing white papers and books that you that for sure are for interest of you. Bruce.
Thanks. Yeah, we try to make a lot of resources available at no cost whatsoever and available virtually. So, our goal, I'm a little bit of an evangelist, so our goal is to get people practicing ongoing structured dialogue in the workplace, because our research shows that's what makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important. Me, as coming from research and academia, I'm really happy that you're mentioning so often that your books and your consultancy practice and your training practice is based on research. Because for me, from my researcher heart at least, evidence-based management is one of the core topics and one of the most important things there as well.
Absolutely. It's like, it's so funny because, like imagine if you went to a doctor who said, you say, well, how are you going to fix me? And they say, well, I have my own style. Right. Or if you went to or if you went to an accountant and they said, well, I don't really like the general ledger system. I keep the numbers all up here. See, but then, everyone says people are our number one asset. And you say, well, how do you manage them? And they say, oh, see, I have my own style. And I'm like, well,
I do it my way.
Yeah. Are you sure that's a good idea?
I love that. Really, really fantastic. And today we are going to talk about a super important topic. We're talking about the importance of virtual one-on-one meetings. And we're going to talk about what are important aspects that we need to consider. But let's start without the virtual space. So one-on-one meetings, what does your research show how one-on-ones are dealt with in presence organizations or before COVID, to say so?
Yeah. So for one thing, look, leaders, managers, and supervisors typically, now sometimes they're so busy, they think they don't have time to communicate at all. Right. And so what they do is they touch base. Right. How's everything going? Is everything on track? Are there any problems I should know about? And then they rush off. Right. Hey, let me know if you need me. My door is always open. I'm just a phone call away. Right. Just email me. Right. Which I think managers should say to people, hey, later when I'm really busy in the middle of something really important at the least convenient time possible, could you please interrupt me? Right. Because what happens in most management relationships is a lot of unstructured communication. Right. So we touch base with each other and we feel like we're communicating, but it's very superficial. Sometimes we shoot the breeze. How was your day yesterday? Right. What did you watch on television? Stuff that's not work related. And then, we don't have time to talk about the work. Let's get to work. Right. Let me know if you need me. And then we interrupt each other all day long. And then we're on emails together. And then sometimes we're in meetings. Right. Usually, we're in too many meetings. And then what happens is problems hide below the radar. And then when do we have the most substantive conversations? When things go wrong and people get frustrated. Managers tell me all the time when I talk with them about, how do you communicate? If you really drill down, where most communication happens is after things have gone wrong. People are frustrated, and then they have to have really it's firefighting, right? We got to solve a problem that shouldn't have happened in the first place. And so what our research shows is that when managers put more structure and substance into their communication, things get better. Now, team huddles are important, but team huddles are only part of the equation because, for one thing, it's too easy to hide in a team huddle. For another thing, too many people are in too many meetings where they feel like I don't belong here. I don't need to be here. This isn't a great use of my time. And what managers say all the time is, everybody's different, right? What I need from one person is different from what I need from another person. What one person needs from me is different from what another person needs from me. So, what's the answer there? Well, that's why one-on-one communication is so important. And what most individuals need is guidance, direction, support, and coaching about what they're going to do today, tomorrow, this week, next week, right? That usually people have too many priorities and aren't sure, which one should be on the back burner. They need to get their hands on resources, and maybe they're not 100% sure how, or if they can't get the resources they need, what do I do then? Right? Troubleshooting, problem solving. Hey, let me just show you how I'm going to do this. Does this look right to you? Right? So so many leaders, they're worried about, they're running around doing their own work. They feel like they don't have time to manage. Then they have to jump in and solve problems that shouldn't have happened in the first place. And then if they go to a leadership class, everyone's talking to them about, seek to understand the deep inner motivations, light the fire in everybody's belly. In the real world, what most people need is somebody to provide them with guidance, direction, and support. What are the expectations? How am I doing? Can you give me some problem solving, troubleshooting, resource planning? I want to make sure that someone is helping me make important decisions. I want to make sure that somebody that I'm aligned with my boss. So when there's too much to do and not enough time, at least we're aligned. That's what people need. And one-on-one is where all the action is. And what our research shows is that when managers start spending time in structured dialogue with individuals, fewer problems occur, problems get solved more quickly, resources are better planned, people follow best practices more often, so rework happens less often. By the way, low performers hate this, so they run away. High performers love this, so they stick around. Right?
Amazing point about high and low performers, because that's what you want at the end. You want those engaged and motivated and high performing to stay in the organization, and those who are not committed or not engaged and they have a low performance for whatever reason. Yeah.
I mean, so sometimes people will say, well, leave me alone. Guidance, get away from me. Oh, I'll do it my way. Feedback, none for me, thanks. Well, guess what? Those people, you can send them across the street to work for your competition. What high performers want from a boss is guidance, direction, support, and coaching. Somebody who knows who they are, knows what they're doing, and can help them do more, better, faster.
So, of course, what we see here already, two areas that are super important. On one hand, we have the structured dialogue that you were mentioning so often now. And I think this is one thing, if I remember, in my career, my academic career, and probably academia is even slightly different, I probably had, I don't know, 101 additional to the performance appraisal that is mandatory in each organization, right? So a year. And of course, this is not enough structured dialogue. What would you say? Let's go now into the grain. We know that there are a lot of advantages. What does it mean to conduct a structured 101?
Well, so you have to start somewhere, and every person is different. So the real work of developing good, structured one-on-one dialogues with every person, there's a lot of customization. That doesn't mean that you cater to every individual's whim, but you have to figure out, like, who is this person at work, not who is this person deep inside. Because my view is it's none of your business who this person is deep inside. And 99% of managers are not qualified to figure that out. I think that's very bad advice. How about just who is this person at work, right? Is this person a high performer, a low performer, somewhere in the middle? Does this person work fast? Maybe they work too fast and they need to slow down, right? Maybe they work too slowly. They dot every I and cross every T, but so carefully that they don't get enough done. Or maybe they do great work, but they got a bad attitude, right? So you got to figure out, like, who is this person? And then why are you managing this person? Not because Bruce says it's a good idea or because the data from 500,000 people in 400 organizations over 27 years says it works, but it does. But the reason
it's still an argument, right? It's still a good argument there.
Yeah, but why are you, like, what can you help this person do smarter, faster, and better? Right. And then what do you need to talk about with each person? So some people you need to look, some people you may write them off as hopeless low performers. But then it turns out if you talk with them every day for 15 minutes, hey, what are you planning to do today? How are you planning to do it? Show me your plan. What are you worried about today? What might get in your way today? You take somebody who it turns out you thought that person was a low performer. No, that person just needed a lot more guidance and direction.
Others, yeah.
Right. And then one person, maybe you try to talk to them every day and it's you don't need to talk to that person every day. Maybe some people say, oh, what am I doing today? I've prepared a PowerPoint presentation. Right. You say, oh, okay, I'll talk to you every other week. And be nice to that person because she's going to be your boss in a few years, right? So everybody's different. One of the reasons why one-on-ones are so important is because everybody's different. So what we tell leaders, managers, and supervisors is you got to start to have one-on-ones, have them more often, every day, every other day, twice a week with each person, and start to tune in. What is it you're doing? How are you doing it? Talk about the work. What problems are you facing? Start to see, who is this person at work? Why do you need to help this person? What do you need to talk about with this person? How, right? Some people you talk big picture. Some people you have to talk about the details, right? Some people, you have to light a fire in their belly. Some people you got to light a fire under their chair. Some people you got to talk to them every other week. Some people you talk to them twice a day for 5 minutes, right? With some of our clients, what we have developed is a process we call coaching people into position. So on their way in the door, you have a little coaching session with a clipboard. Hey, what are you planning to do today? What are you going to focus on today? Right? Some people you talk to them on the way out the door. Hey, how did today go? Show me what you did. Right? So everybody's different. And what good leaders, managers, and supervisors do is they develop a cadence, a structure, a dialogue with every individual. And our advice is prepare in advance, but the best thing you can do is teach your direct reports to prepare in advance. So they own part of the process. Hey, why don't you keep a running list of the things you need to talk to me about? And oh, nothing. Well, let's try harder. Let's do more homework, right? So, what did you do yesterday? How did you do it? How did it go? What are you planning to do this week? And then decisions you need made, problems you need help solving, resources you need help planning. If you're not sure about a plan, show me, right? So it's planning together, problem solving together. But the beauty is that you can get each person in the habit of preparing in advance in writing, giving you a punch list, and then you have the conversation. And, some people, it's a moving target. Sometimes you talk twice a week. Sometimes you talk once a week. And you have to make it authentic. And what you're trying to do is have a meaningful, substantive conversation with each person about the work so that you can set them up for success and help them keep track of their own success.
So what you were already mentioning, I think a very important and valuable points here and aspects here, but we're talking for 101s from as little as 5 minutes a day to as much as 30 minutes every other day or twice a week, probably. So they're really short meetings. And now thinking about the virtual space, we do know that many people in the virtual space were struggling much more with self-organization, self-direction, self-motivation. So of course, the importance of one-on-ones is even higher. Now, let me ask you one question. When I talk with managers and when I talk within organizations, I very often get, probably you for sure get the same argument, I don't have time for that. With all my team members, a one-on-one every other week, I will never ever be able to do that. So what is your argument, and how do you help support them to make enough time for one-on-ones?
Yes, so I always tell people, if the less time you have, the less, if you don't have enough time, you don't have enough time to not do this. Right? So because here's what happens. Remember what happens. If you don't spend time upfront in advance, guiding, directing, supporting, and coaching people, then things go wrong. Sometimes they go terribly wrong. And then what happens is you end up solving problems that didn't have to happen in the first place. So, here in America, we do a lot of work with the military. We also do work with the Park Service and the Forest Service. And we have a very famous park ranger here in America who's a talking bear. Do you know about this guy? Yeah. So when I tell people outside the United States about this, sometimes they don't believe me. But I swear, we have a very famous park ranger. He's a talking bear. His name is Smokey. And ask any American, they'll tell you. He's very famous. And Smokey the bear is famous for saying a lot of things. One of the things he's famous for saying is, It's a whole lot easier to prevent a forest fire than it is to put one out. The guy's a genius, and he's a bear. So, right? So,
Okay, I found him. I had to Google that one because I have never ever heard about Smokey the Bear, but here he
Smokey
is.
the Bear.
Yes.
Guy's a genius, and he's a great American hero. And so I always tell people, prevent the fires before they happen. Fire prevention, managing upfront in advance before anything goes right, wrong, or average. That is managing that's fire prevention. It will save you so much time. So if you manage upfront in advance, look around the corner, identify small fires and put them out before they get out of control. Identify fires that might happen and stop them from happening. Help people plan the use of resources so they don't squander resources and then have to recoup them. In almost every organization I go to, one of the biggest productivity drains is rework, having to do things over. Well, if you guide, direct, and support people up front, you cut rework. You cut rework. So mark my words, you will get that time back. Get this, if you drive one low performer out and get them to go work for your competition, right? Low performers get paid. It's a waste of money. They cause problems that high performers have to fix. High performers hate to work with low performers. Low performers send a message that high performers, hey, maybe low performance is an option around here. So get one low performer out the door and send them to work for your competition. That'll be a big strategic advantage. What if you have one high performer who's so frustrated because they need guidance, direction, and support, and the low performers are in their way? Retain one high performer. Think about how much time that will save you. So it's sort of like this, nobody has time to work out, but then some people do, right? So you take a walk every day and eat your vegetables. I don't have time for that, but then you're going to live longer, right? You get the time back. So I take a walk every day and eat my vegetables. Okay, I'm going to live longer. I realize some people get hit by a bus and then they think, drat, I wasted all that time exercising. But you can't plan for getting hit by a bus. So I tell people, there's nobody's making any more time, but there is one way you can make more time. And that is by managing people up front in advance, because you're going to avoid all the time you would waste later on.
Absolutely.
You don't have time not to do it.
You don't have time not to do it. I think that's a very important sort of statement here. You don't have time not to do that. And I think also, let's pick up here Abril's question. There is a comment: having one-on-one with our managers are a great opportunity to express ourselves when we have something to say, but sometimes managers do not do them, I assume. But how do we get the most out of that time that we have with a manager?
Yeah, that's great advice. So the first thing is, make sure your manager knows that you want that time with him or her, right? So schedule time. If your manager's not giving you this time, then, be a self-starting high performer. Take ownership. Let your manager know, hey, I need more guidance, direction, support, and coaching. So try to schedule that time. The second thing to do is prepare in advance and prepare in writing, and give them a punch list in writing. And then go
something like
in.
the specific plan, right? Like Abril is mentioning, the specific plan, specific
exactly
content,
what you
agenda.
want to talk about. Whatever you want to talk about. So if you want to talk about a particular project, tell them, I want to talk about project A, and let me give you in advance, here's my draft plan for project A. I'd like to go over it with you. Maybe there's a task or a responsibility that's recurring that you've been having a problem with. So then say, I want to talk about this task or responsibility, and then show them your standard operating procedure and say, I want to go over this and make sure I have it right. Or maybe you have so many competing priorities and you're not sure which one to do. Make a list of them and say, I'm not sure which one to back burner because I can't do everything for everybody. Or maybe there's a person in another team you've been having a hard time getting cooperation with. And you could say, here's the person, here's everything I've done to try to get that cooperation. So prepare in writing in advance. It's like studying for the test, right? So you go in really prepared and then make really good use of that conversation. Don't digress. Don't spend too much time. So maybe even prepare, rehearse, because what you want your manager to think after a one-on-one is, wow, it's a good thing we had that conversation. Right. So if you go in and the manager's like, what a waste of time, then that manager will avoid you like the plague. Right. But if you show your manager, by the way, we also call this practicing extreme alignment. It's a way to show a manager how self-starting you are, what a high performer you are, how organized you are, what you are doing. And you're not saying, hey, look at all that I'm doing. You're saying, I'm so engaged with my work. I have a plan. I have standard operating procedures, and I want your guidance, direction, support, and coaching. Then go in, have a great meeting. And you know what? That manager is going to think, wow, that person's a superstar.
Absolutely. So it means both parties, manager and team member, need to come prepared, which is super important to make the most out of the one-on-one meeting. There's one other question that I wanted to ask you, because I read through your blog articles. Why shouldn't you skip the debrief? Why is the debrief so important?
Well, look, in every conversation, what you've got to do is either plan or review. You're planning or reviewing. And so after every task, responsibility, or project, part of your conversation should be what we call an after action review, or they do that in the military. It's called an after action review. What went right, what went wrong, how can we do better, and let's plan the next time. So it's just, you're building structure into every conversation. And what you want to do is keep your conversations organized around how to do more, better, faster, right? Problems to solve, to get out of the way, resources to plan. And you want to also make sure that you understand each other, that it's working for both of you.
Of course, fantastic, very good point. And what happens after the 101? So what should we do after the 101?
So my advice to leaders, managers, and supervisors is you've got to take notes. So the most important thing is you end the one-on-one with a punchline. And the punchline is always next steps, concrete actions, concrete timeline. The punchline is always next steps. Here's what we're going to do next, or here's what you're going to do next. And then schedule the next meeting, and then prepare something in writing. And again, some managers, they have 16 people, or in healthcare, they might have 30 or 40 people. So you can have your direct reports do a post-meeting summary. And you can give them some of that ownership, but you got to prepare in advance in writing, end on a concrete next step, schedule the next meeting, and then here's what we agreed in writing.
Fantastic. And I think that the written aspect of it, or the writing at the end and the writing also beforehand, is something really important, particularly if we're working in a virtual team or in a virtual sort of boss team member relationship, that we have something there about what we talked about. That's also what brings the structure into our 101s, right? Let me ask you one final question.
And by the way, one other thing about writing is it sends a powerful message, right? That you're important, your work is important. I'm taking it seriously. And then we're going to have a memorialized document that we can both make reference to.
Very good. Yeah, super important. Let me ask you one final question. If we think now about an organization, whether I'm a team leader or whether I'm a team member, in my organization, my team leader or my team member, they don't really want 101s. How can I make it start happen? So they don't want it. They don't not want it. We never had that. So what would be the suggestion from you as a team leader or as a team member? How can I kick it off?
Yeah. So as a leader, all you got to do is, you're in charge, pull the team together and say, hey, you don't say like, all right, now I'm going to hold everyone accountable. We're going to start doing things seriously around it right now. Don't do that, right? So what you want to do is say, hey, good news. I'm going to try to be a better manager. Good news. What we're all doing is challenging. We all need more support, more guidance, more direction. We all need to be in dialogue. We need to make sure we're aligned, that we're not wasting time, that we're not having unnecessary problems. Good news. I'm going to try to be a better manager. Please help me. And here's how we're going to do that. I'm going to start having a regular one-on-one conversation with each of you. I want you to own that. I want you to be part of it. I want you to help me help you. And then, then it's the relentless medicine of consistency. Right? It's consistency that, because at first they might think, oh, sit tight, this will blow over. Oh, great. They saw that podcast. Oh, right. They were on LinkedIn Live. Oh, now we're going to have one-on-ones. Okay. Right. Sit tight. This will blow over. No, don't let it blow over. Stick to it. And, the beauty is human beings are creatures of habit. The problem is that bad habits feel just as good as good habits. Right. But the good news is that good habits feel just as good as bad habits. You just have to get into them.
I love that. Bad habits just feel as good as good habits, but good news, good habits just feel as good as bad habits. So I just need to sort of memorize that. Love it. Exactly. Bruce, fantastic. Thank you so much. I think the last thing that you were mentioning also relates a little bit to one more question that we're having here, and we're picking it up. It is about how do you advise people from more reserved cultures and hierarchical cultures where subordinates seldom take initiatives, referring to you said stating punchlines and asking the boss for a talk. What do you suggest here so that your people come to you as well?
Yeah, so as a leader, you got to tell them, hey, I want you to do this. And sometimes, I may drop the ball. I may forget to do the one-on-ones. So I want to give you the power to initiate those conversations if you're a leader. If you're not a leader, if you're an individual contributor and you're trying to get your boss's attention, you just want to always position it not as something, hey, I need this, I want this, but rather, hey, I want to make sure that I'm doing as much work as well as I can, as fast as I can. Mm-hmm. I want to contribute more. I want to make sure that I'm not causing unnecessary problems, right? I want to step up and do more, better, faster. I need some guidance, direction, support, and coaching. And so look, sometimes we work with engineers, we work with accountants, and they're like, oh, I don't really look people in the eye when I talk. But it's okay. The evidence is so persuasive. It works so well. And the good news is you don't have to say rah, rah. You don't have to motivate and inspire. All you have to do is talk about the work in clear, direct terms. Talk about expectations, concrete tasks, concrete responsibilities, step-by-step plans, problem solving, resource planning. How are we going to keep score? Should I keep a time log? Should I keep a checklist? Should I work this plan? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go rah-rah. You just have to talk about the work. There's way too many crucial conversations in the workplace. There's not enough boring conversations about the work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bruce. And last but not least, what I want to share with you, because probably a lot of people want to see that now, is, give me a second. There he is, Smokey the Bear.
Smokey the Bear, baby. See, I didn't make him up. Great American hero.
Thanks a lot for sharing that. And Bruce, thank you so much for sharing all your advices about 101s. And again, make sure to follow Bruce, connect with Bruce. He's tagged in this post as well. Bruce Tulgan from Rainmaker Thinking. check out his webpage and the blog, rainmakerthinking.com. Bruce, it was a pleasure having you with me here. And you know that I prepared a short virtual cocktail backstage, so I'm joining you in a bit there as well. Thanks a lot for being with us, and see you in a bit.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure. Thanks for making it so easy.
Thanks. Bye. Virtual Space Hero community, thanks so much. I was picking up on the questions that I got beforehand. I was also picking up on your questions, and also here a big shout out again to people connecting from Spain. Hello there, Abril again. Thanks a lot. Brad Perry, a dear colleague, now connecting from Poland, not from the United States. Thanks a lot for connecting and for being here with us. Having said that, you know that Virtual Space Hero LinkedIn live show is running every week. If you miss it, nothing happens because we stream, and the streaming content is online, and you can find it on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on YouTube. And with that, I'm inviting you to check out our webpage, virtualspacehero.com, where you can find all the upcoming LinkedIn live shows, and you can also find our podcast there. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Stay connected and become a virtual space hero. See you next week. Bye.